What does art mean today that is different from, say, the last 50 years? What is its actual significance today? I think there's no doubt that many of the direct influences you have from art is somehow it's kind of fading away, not in a bad way, but you don't see that direct influence. Say in the days of even someone like Andy Warhol, you could tell that when he made a drawing, a painting, whatever, somehow it hit the news and it became topical. He was the one that is supposed to have said that everybody will be famous for 15 minutes. And to be frank, he was right, because today people could be famous in less than that. But 15 minutes, his predictions are actually apt and correct. I mean, you still need time to be famous on TikTok, but he kind of hit it at 15 minutes. So he was kind of a visionary in that sense. Mind you, he worked with movies, he worked with actors, actresses, and all kinds of crazy people. So he came up with a moving average that was correct. Also, most of what he did were kind of ephemeral, they were topical, they were of the moment. They painted people that were trending and popular. He also made objects and stuff like that with Brillo pads, shoes, whatever. He kept it simple, but you can't but admire his skills. I think that he was very good. Did I like everything he did? Certainly not. But on average, he was very good. He was very good. His screen printing, although initially people thought, it wasn't any good, over time, the thing were kind of masterclass in screen printing. Actually, they were well ahead of what was actually modern screen printing in the 60s. He was really someone of note. I mean, never mind, again, his notoriety about parties and whatever, and his white hair and all the foolishness that went with a lot of the crazy people who hung around him. But the man was a movement. Anyway, I only threw in that just to clear my head and clarify a couple of points I want to make. And that is that modern art today is much, much tougher than it was like even 30 years ago, or let's put it in a much longer period, 50 years ago. Because today people are easily distracted. People don't even pay attention to what is supposed to be good art. Everybody somehow believes themselves to be artists, and they are in a way. But one thing is certain, most of art that is being produced today half-baked, very poorly executed, bad taste, and worst of all is that more people are not collecting them and curating them and keeping them. So many of the artists who are going to come out of wherever they've been schooled in are not going to have that kind of reverence that the older artists have enjoy, they won't have it because their generation are much more flippant with things. They're not really that interested in keeping things for long, It will still retain, there will still be custodians of art, but for the younger generation, millennials and all that, they are not really that interested in it, except you can put it on a digital platform like their phones or laptops or tablets. But that, with all due respect, does not represent the type of spiritual connection you have when you see a painting. Somehow the medium of the electronic self, does not really drag out that in people. Except again, maybe it's like a movie, people watching a movie, but a movie takes time. Whereas paintings or drawings are instant. You get the message instant. You may analyze later, but the impact is straightforward. There's no hiding place. Even if the work has hidden meanings, you do get a direct hit from it. Whereas with anything that is mobile, moving, films, you need time to digest it, you need logic to analyze a lot of stuff. And then there's the emotion as to whether you like the story or whether you like the actor or the director. That becomes too influential in the outcome, so that movies give you a third party, a kind of a more diluted state of form of art. That is my take on it. I don't think it as direct as a piece of sculpture or a piece of painting. Film fails there, even with its power to convince and convert people into having a different notion of how the world is. It does fail in the area that it kind of needs processing, too much processing to engage with. So art itself becomes a serious matter for those of us who are contemplating the way forward, because even for me today, as I engage and paint on canvas, I keep thinking, who is going to see this story? How am I going to show it to people? If they're only seeing it on the web, it does not translate properly. It doesn't even get any of its energy through the medium, because the web reduces everything into almost a gimmick. Everything is reduced to almost a joke, because sooner or later another picture comes. Millions of pictures, good or bad, horrible and beautiful, hit the web in the hundreds of thousands every second of the day. So what is anyone to make of these things? Here is where I advise young artists to be cautious. This is where I advise you to keep documents. This is where I also say you should form your kind of community if you can. Not everybody can. I don't have a community, so I'm not going to start preaching that. But if you can do that, have your own community, people who you gather with and you share ideas with. You people will obviously definitely be the people who safeguard, curate, and hopefully show the world what you have. You can't rely on anybody to do that. Not even the institutions. The institutions are desperate. They are worried about the new tech destroying their legacy and messing up everything. So they are not willing to take on anybody new that much. They are taking people, but they are making it very difficult to allow people to come and join them. So, as a young artist, you must begin to build your own societies or groups of friends, make it friendly, but definitely work on it. Don't leave it for other people to do for you, because it's not going to happen. People's minds have become so fickle, they don't really care for much these days. Actually, most people, all they want is money. They don't even care about the art. They just want the money so they can show off to the world that they are successful. So, success is basically having a lot of money. Not what you do to make the money, just the money. So, most of the young folks who make the money are not interested in buying art. So we have a problem that the older generation will be the main people who own most of the most prestigious art of today, of the past, and of the future. And the younger ones, unknown to them, who keep buying all these fancy electronics that are usually worthless within a quarter of a year, they're obsolete. So if you have money and you have a friend that makes art, support them, buy from them, keep them working, and you may be one of the people that owns the masterpiece of the future. With that said, have a good day. Ciao.